Previously on Balls.
This is Bollockz. Next up, the mole. Now you might see that in various places you could win a brand new Orlando Pirates Back to Black t-shirt if you can tell me who the mole is. The mole is a mysterious individual who digs into the British transfer market and discovers things that nobody else knows, mainly because he's friends with people in high places. He's a mole, he's blind. Social ills might sum him up quite well, actually. I did have a dinner with him the other week. Where is he this week? The mole, your phone is ringing. We will be asking the mole about the big transfers in England, and here he is. Moley, Moley, Moley. How are you, mate?
I'm all right, Mr. C. How are you?
Very, very good. Now listen, where are you this week? What's the weather like?
You know, it's not too bad, actually. You know, I think all the sun's gone to everybody's head over here. That's why we've got some ridiculous stories in the newspapers doing the rounds.
Absolutely. It's summer in some places, winter in others. We're not going to say where you are. People have to find out who you are in order to win their Orlando Pirates t-shirt. Talk me through the Suarez thing, please. Moley, Moley, Moley. I'm worried about this Arsenal 30 million bid, reputedly. There's talk of it even being increased today for the Liverpool biting, handballing, diving star. What do you think?
Well, I think it's definitely got legs to it, for sure. I think Arsenal are also sort of playing a little bit of devil's advocate with Real Madrid. I mean, remember what we said last week about Perez likes to play hardball at Madrid, but I think that might come back to bite him on the bum with the fact that they need the money. You know, are Arsenal now saying, listen, you're messing us around with Higuain, so we'll go after the bloke that you wanted, you know, and you haven't got the money, we have.
Yeah, that's what worries me.
Yeah,
go on.
It's difficult because I mean they obviously like him. There's too much smoke there for it not to be real. Whether they've actually offered any money or not is, you know, one club's idea of you offering money to actually make an inquiry is completely different to what somebody else looks at it. You know, there's a lot of that going on at the moment. Again, it's the posturing season, and it's you know. It's all the bluff and who does want what and the smoke screens and mirrors. I mean, I've been told that there's definitely stuff going on at Arsenal that's big.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do their stuff in public. We never have done. I mean, that's the one thing with the internet and that kind of thing the last few years, that somebody gets a whisper and it's all over the internet, it's all in the papers, and Arsenal historically never ever did that. You know, the only time you ever knew that somebody had been bought was when the guys on the pitch with the shirt on.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether you were over years and years ago. Were you around when George signed Ian Wright?
Yes, I was. The Crystal Palace move for a player that everyone was pretty sure was half bonkers, but a great signing, and we didn't know until the day after.
Now, did you know that there was a golf day that the media were actually at, and people were playing with George Graham, and he did the deal on the phone, and all the media guys were absolutely going mad because Arsenal have bought Ian Wright, and all the media guys and the journos are playing golf with George Graham.
Absolutely, and George Graham was good at it. I think Arsene Wenger is probably even better at making sneaky transfer deals. Well, that's what we have to believe. As Arsenal fans, you have to hope that something suddenly is going to happen, maybe towards the end of the month. And all this.
Yeah, but I mean, Neal, you know, let's be honest. It's you know, we're 11 days in. It's people need to get real. It's going to take time. I mean, I think everybody, you know, people do it. It's excuses of, you know, why are Arsenal so slow? And well, who's actually really done anything yet? I mean, there's going to be a domino effect from the Cavani and the Falcao with PSG and Monaco.
Sure.
I mean, you know, Chelsea and Man City both wanted those two. Why have they not gone to Chelsea and Man City? You know, is anybody moaning that Chelsea and Man City have lost out on their two biggest priorities? No.
No,
you know,
can't.
so everybody's picking and looking at us as if we've not done anything. But, you know, I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes, for sure.
Monaco and
I
PSG...
think there will be...
Go on.
Go on, mate.
Yeah, I just think Monaco and PSG spending big money has kind of skewed the transfer market. Or it kind of gives Wayne Rooney that kind of alternative place to go. When Colleen says she wants to go to London, there's still possibilities of Rooney for the Emirates and people like that. I'm just looking at one here. Argentine defender Gino Peruzzi set to arrive in England to type a move to Sunderland, and that's the kind of thing that makes, you know, fans of bigger clubs uptight. That they seem to be doing these deals and pulling these people in. while Arsenal are jetting off to Jakarta and travelling 19,626 miles all around the place. Manchester City, 22,224 miles. All these pre-season tours, and really, and all anyone wants is to find out, what new players are we bringing on board.
Yeah, but it's difficult at this time of the year where players, a lot of the good players have been away on international duty. They're not even back yet. The agents are doing all the work behind the scenes. I would say by the end of July, then you've got to be saying that's when things will kick in. The domino effect will start. There will be there's going to be the one or two really big signings that will then set everybody else off. Everybody's obviously got their priorities, who they're looking at, who they want. They've then got a backup. I mean, you've got this thing with Benteke now. He's stirring the pot at Aston Villa. You've got Man City now have jumped to the head of the queue for Jovetic. I mean, you might be able to talk to them over the weekend while they're out there with you.
Yeah, I know. That's what I plan to do at Loftus, yeah.
Jovetic has now come up. And I mean, they were linked with him, and then that all went quiet, and then it was Chelsea want him, and then we wanted him, then he's going to Juventus. I mean, now it's back on that apparently he's going to Man City. Then Negredo as well is another one for Man City. So, I mean, everybody's being linked with everyone, Yeah. And then the little guys are trying to get the little deals done, which they are doing, obviously. Tottenham, I've heard, have put Clint Dempsey up for sale.
Yeah, not a bad player. How old is Clint Dempsey now? 30-odd? 31? I can check it here.
They bought him last year.
Yeah, I know, mate. But and he did all right. But he's not going to set the world alight anymore, is he?
No, he's
I'm
not.
Just going to find Clint Dempsey's
sure.
age.
No.
I always hope one of these old blokes like Dempsey, not old blokes, but one of these guys, as they come to the end of their career, will jump into South African football for a couple of weeks. But he's born March the 9th, 1983. He's 30 now, Clint Dempsey. But his money, I mean, you can imagine the wages he's on, and he'll go back to America, won't he, and play for a lot of money in the MSL, I'm sure. But that's how it works, isn't it?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Look at Liverpool and look what goes on with Reina. That's going to be another one to look at over the next week or two with them signing Mignolet.
Exactly. The goalkeeping thing is quite interesting. What about this? The Cesar at QPR won't play in the Championship. Where do you think he'll go? The Brazilian goalkeeper.
Well, I mean, yesterday there was a thing coming through that he's agreed to go to Napoli on loan, which has put the Arsenal stories up in the air. But then today, again in the papers, we're now being linked with Tim Krul from Newcastle.
Yes,
that's
I quite like him.
That's been thrown in.
Yeah, I quite like Krul.
I think all your mates have been sitting in the bar, mate, drinking and coming up with lots of stories.
What's interesting, I mean, you read them, as a mole who knows his football as well. I read them as a bloke who used to work with, a lot of them. Sean Custis on The Sun. I don't know his brother Neal so well. They write the really hairy transfer stories. Neil Ashton on the Mail, Rob Shepherd on the Times. People like that I've worked with. And I know that they don't actually sit there and just pull it out their thumb, pull it out the bottom of a bottle. I know that. I've worked with them. I've seen what they do and how often they're right. Ian McGarry, Scott's lad, he was always spot on when he finally came out with a story. But so much of it changes, according to the agents and the blowing of the wind. But you're right. So on Sunday, I will go down to this SuperSport United versus Manchester City game, which is only a friendly with 9 substitutions, and I will try to ask various people. I won't be able to speak to Pellegrini, I'm sure. I don't speak enough Italian, but I will try and find out, exactly what they're doing. Again, Manchester City linked with all these players. Like Monaco, they've got more money than they know what to do with, like Mamelodi Sundowns in this country. And we'll try and find out what Manchester City are doing, and any leftovers, I imagine, will go to Arsenal. Is that right?
I don't think so, no. If you can, is Patrick over there? Do you know if Patrick's flying?
Patrick will be here. He's done a deal with Aces. Yeah.
Don't speak to Patrick. He might give you a few little snippets.
Yeah, I last spoke to Patrick in Abu Dhabi. Yeah, no.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Man City now, with the financials kicking in. I mean, at what point are these clubs actually going to be wary at all of their limits and what they can pay and what they can't pay, or are they going to turn around and stick their 2 fingers up at UEFA? That's also going to be interesting in the next few weeks.
Well, it was voted in, wasn't it? These new English Premier League rules on finance were voted in by 14 votes to 7, as I understand it. There were 3 or 4 abstentions, but Manchester City definitely voted against. And will they just ignore them? And what punishment will they get if they spend well over the odds under these new rules? How do the FA or the EPL punish them? It'll be very difficult to do that.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's from just your ordinary football fan in the street is saying, well, what are UEFA actually going to do with any of these clubs that turn around and just ignore the rules? I mean, if they want to go and spend 200 million, who's going to stop them? Are you going to kick them out of UEFA? Are you going to kick them out of the Champions League? Of course they're not. They couldn't afford for those big teams not to be in the Champions League, surely.
No, they can't.
And then are they going to fine them? I mean, yeah, fine them. What do you do? What do you do fining Man City? They'll just laugh at you.
Yeah, exactly.
The
fines just don't seem to work in football these days. They mean nothing. Look at the Carlos. Look at the Carlos Tevez.
You've had Man City and Chelsea upsetting the apple cart with all the prices and the fees being paid, and now you've got Monaco doing it. Now you've got PSG doing it. Is this thing in Spain going to kick in as well in the next few weeks? I think that's where you're going to get the bargains. Is Spain. I mean everybody's saying Spain for bargains, but there's so many players out there that are looking obviously to get the better deals as they can. But you've still got, again, 2 or 3 weeks where clubs are looking for the best deals possible, best prices. Certain players have got buyout clauses that finish. The Fellaini thing is interesting that he's got a buyout clause that ends, I think it's the 14th or 15th of August.
Strange timing, I saw that.
Everton have got to push the price up, or does it mean that if he really, throws his toys out the cot, they've got to sell him for less? Again, it's back to Suarez at Liverpool. Yeah. Do Liverpool want to keep a player that doesn't want to be there? We've had it with Van Persie, we've had it with Cess. All this rubbish about Arsenal buying Cess back. Why would Cess now be on the edge of getting into the Barcelona team permanently with Xavi being over the hill nearly?
Yeah.
And now he's going to come back to Arsenal. Why? No, that doesn't make sense.
No, I was just hoping, mate. I just looked at the Daily Mail this morning and I thought, oh, blimey, wouldn't it be nice? But there we are. In one sentence, we've got to finish. Moly. We've got to finish with your last. Who will be the biggest signing of the winter, or of the summer, of the transfer window in England, do you think?
In England? I think there's a lot. The ones that are in the papers, I don't think will be the biggest. I think the ones that are in the papers, the teams are quite happy to have themselves linked with the 5 or 6 players that are doing the rounds. I think there's 1 or 2 really big signings that are under the radar that people are working on that will then happen, and people go, sure, didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, I think Man United will pull a big one out for David Moyes. Not Leighton Baines, something even bigger than that, but we'll see what happens. Moly, thanks a million, mate. Enjoy the weather over there.
Take care, mate.
And,
lovely. Thank you. I'm going to enjoy England winning the cricket, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm just waiting for it to start. All right, Moly, we'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, speak to you soon. Cheers,
thanks, mate. Cheers. And that's it. Bollockz. Bollockz to today. 2 hours of football from Kevin Johnson all the way through to the Mole, from the top to the bottom, mate. What have we found out today? That Bafana are going to have an interesting time in Zambia against Namibia with a squad that might need name tags on Saturday. And we've also found out that a lot of these big moves, the Suarez and a lot of these guys that are being mentioned in sentences with £30 million, not going to happen. But the big thing for me, Sunday, Loftus Versfeld, Supersport United against Manchester City. Kevin Johnson, thanks for the interview today. Listen in again next week. Bollockz, every Thursday on Bulls Radio, 10 till 12. Until then.
This is Bulls Visual Radio.